You can't think of solutions to all your problems. To keep you chasing that almighty silver eagle so you can buy everything they're selling to keep you down, brothers. But Daisy Fitzroy says there's another way. Another way coming real soon.
Not before she pays us. We're here for guns and then the airship.
Maybe Daisy's right. Maybe she should pay him back for all of this. I guess we could head straight for the police station. Or see what's in that bar. What do you think?
Back it up, Skell. Thieving bastard!
So, in this game, we've had a couple of times where we were presented with a choice, like a very explicit one, like when we had to choose the pendant, whether we would do the bird or the cage one, which I still don't know if that actually matters. Like, I don't know if that comes into play. But there are many more, or not many more, but there are several more sort of choices, more like the one that I just made, to walk past the person, and now this whole area is going to be hostile to me, which it would not have if I had not done that. I had never gone over there. I wanted to see with the infusion. I wanted to get the infusion. And I honestly didn't think that they would shoot me, because every time that I've played this game, I've just assumed that they're friendly by default. But no, if you piss people off in this place, then they'll go. And I scared off all the fucking kids and the guy that was talking to him. Like, I just feel like a dickhead now. That was the best thing about it in this, you know, fictional video game. I did that and I like felt bad, not because I shot like 4 dudes in the head, but because like now everyone thinks I'm like mean or whatever, but I'm like, you know, it's already problematic enough to be who I am in this game, in this part of town, but to add on top of that, to add the insult, or I guess the injury to insult, of killing, like, the 3rd person that I meet there. I guess they were white, so, you know, they might not care all that much.
Everything I got is done in pawn. On my watch.
I don't understand. Why some people are treated like men. Others like animals.
There's plenty of places down below where you'll find more of the same.
Like a wounded knee.
Yeah, like a wounded knee.
Labor agitator. Very important detail here. But I'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. But yeah, racism's bad, folks. That's what that part was about.
Smothering it in its crib.
That's also an important line, what that person just said. It won't be for a very long time, but it is foreshadowing something, believe it or not.
Make no mistake, soldiers. The Vox and weapons go together like fire and gunpowder. One spark, and we'll have a blaze we cannot control.
Go on without me.
Fucking, why is that so satisfying? I don't understand. I just, it's one of my favorite things about this game. All of this game's many, like, story and gameplay shortcomings, or most of them, I'm willing to excuse in exchange for the fact that the game looks nice. It's not too long, honestly. Like, as far as these types of games go, it could be a lot longer. Oh my. Did you see that? Oh, that guy exploded into some big, I don't even know, lines. Anyway, so yeah, this is a huge pain in the ass because you have the big boom guns shooting at you, and you need to get those out of there. And the repeater runs out of ammo very quickly, so, and there are a lot of other enemies, and they can all get on the skyline and fuck with you, and, like, come up behind you, and suddenly you have 14 people, like, hitting you in the butt.
Elizabeth.
But, yeah, it's fine. I'll be speeding it up a little bit into this, because it did take quite a bit, and we have a lot of stuff to get through in this video. And yeah, I'm just, like, eating shit here. I wasn't even, like, thinking about anything. And I used the wrong vigor there. I was hoping to use the, shock jockey, but I did not. And yeah, those things, those booms, they really don't fuck around. They really just shit all over you there. But yeah, you may notice, if you're looking, that, this is a pretty long one. I mean, all of the videos for this LP are longer than most of my other LP videos. On average, I guess I would say. I mean, some of them have just been in the same, like, 20 to 25 minute range that my normal stuff is. But, yeah, just about 40 minutes of shit in this one, which I know is a pretty big, commitment, you know, like, committing to watching this video, but hopefully it is interesting, and it's just because this really is, like, all part of one sort of whole section of the game that just runs a tad long, especially if you're me and you take a million years on parts like this. As well as when we're fighting the airship later, which I just completely suck dick at. We still have a few things left. You may notice, if you've been paying attention to the story, that Daisy Fitzroy is not our friend anymore yet, which I know I have talked about it before, and most people who are watching this are probably familiar with the game. That Daisy will, I guess I won't say she'll betray us directly, but she will be posited as a villain in this game. Not the villain, but a villain of the likes of Comstock, which I've already talked about a little bit, and I will go more at length into in this video when it becomes relevant. And yeah, this is a pain in the ass, but there you go. You always run out of repeater ammo at the most inopportune time. And then it's one of the harder ones to find a bunch of ammo for. Everybody only has, like, a crank gun or an RPG, and I like the repeater, though. I think they're cool.
There you go.
So, I'm yawning, sorry. What was I fucking saying? I forget. Oh yeah, so, Daisy has not, you know, taken that position yet, and so that will be happening in this one, partway through this one, and then we will be getting the sort of, conclusion to this section of the game, where we are at least nominally joining forces with the Vox Populi, and, trying to get the airship back so that we can leave for Paris/New York. So, I just thought that it would be a little bit less of an awkward transition, especially since this is the last video of this week before the weekend, so, you know, I just get a nice long one where we finish out the sort of big section of the game that we're in before we move on to the next sort of story stuff. you know, the next leg of story development that we have to do. And we'll start that in the next segment. That was my line of thinking with this one, so... Just saying, because I know that super long LP videos are not everyone's thing. I personally, like... I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but I don't really watch any other Let's Plays anymore. I don't watch a whole lot of video game content on YouTube to begin with, or Twitch. The only people on Twitch that I really watch are sometimes if, like, people I know who are famous for other things are streaming games, which they sometimes do, then I'll watch it if I'm around, but I won't, like, set aside time or go out of my way to watch it usually. Or if my friends are streaming, then I'll sometimes... Like, I used to log into Rob's streams much more often, when he would stream Twilight Princess and Witcher 3. I would just come into the chat and fucking bother everybody. Having a great time shooting this Patriot. I used to be deathly afraid of the Patriots. I mean, I wasn't like a child when I first played this game, obviously, but I, like, even as a... How old was I when this came out? 16 or something? Even as a 16-year-old, I would just, like, go like, fuck, 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 every time I saw a Patriot.
They argued something fierce at night, Lady Comstock and the Prophet. Could never make out what it was about from my bunk, though. After the worst, I seen she ain't left for morning prayer. So I crept upstairs to check in on her. And like a fool, I lingered. Scullery maid was what they called me when I walked into Comstock House. Murderer was what they shouted when I ran out.
Yeah, so that's a pretty important detail. Daisy was framed for the murder of Lady Comstock by Zachary Comstock. After, and I don't know, I had to, like, read some stuff to sort of reacquaint myself with some of the plot of this game, but... so I don't know if it was explicitly said anywhere, or if it's just hidden in voxophones and kinetoscopes that you have to look at, but... I don't remember Zachary Comstock's motivation for murdering Lady Comstock, other than I think that she was just, like, skeptical of the whole thing, like she wasn't cool with everything he was doing. Or she was gonna, like, blab about something to somebody. I think it has to do with Elizabeth. But the reason that Daisy was used as the frame, this is pretty dope, was framed for it was because she refused to be lobotomized by Jeremiah Fink when they were assessing, after they found out that she was, like, super intelligent, and but she wouldn't, you know, use that intelligence toward toward Columbia and the founders and Jeremiah Fink's, you know, capitalist imperial project. She would, you know, so she was a threat to them because she was smart enough to overthrow them and to understand and use a lot of the technologies like that Fink developed. And so, like, the idea of this game positioning her as in the wrong, I mean, I'm sure Ken Levine would argue that she is, you know, oh, well, no, we just present her case. She's a flawed human being like everyone else. Obviously, you're supposed to feel for her on that front, but, you know, she does stuff later in this video that, you know, is really just beyond the pale and basically puts her on the same level as Comstock. And, again, I'll get into it a little more in a minute, but what she does is absolutely not equal to Comstock at all. And this game is kind of ridiculous at this point. This is the peak point of this game being stupid. I regret to inform you. And it's weird that is why I was like, this is the portion of the game I was most excited to play and talk about. Because I didn't, like, go out of my way to let's play this game just to shit on it. But just take a look at what happens. And then I'll come back and we'll talk.
You ever see a forest at the beginning of a fire. For the first flame, you see them possums and squirrels running through the trees. They know what's coming. But the fat bears with their bellies full of honey, well, you can't hardly wake them up from their comfortable hibernation. We're going to Emporium, and then we gonna see what it takes to rouse them from their slumber.
Can you feel it? Daisy's moved these people. Things can change, Booker, and we can be a part of it.
I don't want to be a part of it. Once we get our airship, we'll be well shut of this place.
That was fun. That was a weird little death there. You guys are being weird just swinging around. Yeah, I kind of forgot that we had finished a part that has dialogue. So I don't know how early to like start talking about this shit because I don't know, like... Well, first of all, I'll be getting ahead of myself because most of what I'm talking about is going to be happening at the end of this video, and I don't want to talk over that part. Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing here. So I guess now is the best time to talk about it. So, basically, you'll see what Daisy does at the end. What she does do and what she plans to do, which I will summarize by saying she wants to pull up the problem of the founders by the root. You know, you can probably guess what exactly that means. But then, the only reason, as you'll see in a moment, that she is a direct danger to you, the player, at this time in the game, isn't because of anything bad or wrong on her part. It's because you are a different... well, you'll see in a moment that, you know, we're in a different universe, and Booker is a different person in this universe, and now another one is here, and she doesn't trust, you know, she thinks that this Booker is an imposter, which makes perfect sense, because in this universe, she has known you for a while as a completely different kind of person, which you'll see in what exact way in a moment. And, like, that makes total sense that she would think that, and that she would react that way, and be hostile, and that's really the only reason that you have any reason to distrust her at this juncture in the game. It doesn't have anything to do with her being wrong about anything. But the game seems to position her in a place of wrongness, and yeah, here we go.
You're Booker DeWitt, the hero of the Vox!
What the hell are they talking about?
Look at that poster. In this world, you're a hero.
I remember I led the Vox. Slate and I burned down the Hall of Heroes.
Booker. Your nose.
Hard to think. Two memories in the same
Booker,
place.
come back to me. We're going to find Daisy Fitzroy.
And we're getting out of here on the First Lady. Let's go.
I guess the good news is that now we're in a universe where I didn't try to steal those infusions and walk past those guards and shoot them, so that's cool. They all love me now. They won't for very long, though. And yeah, here's me being a big dumbass and second-guessing myself about the only direction that I can go in, because I'm really good at video games.
In this world, I'm a martyr.
These folk need a better class of hero. When it comes down to it, the only difference between Comstock and Fitzroy is how you spell the name.
Fucking demented.
I see him! I'll cut you in half.
I'll cut you in half. Yeah, right now the Vox are still on our side, so that's nice. And I think we're gonna do some speed up in a sec here. Yeah, here we go. Just another bit of fighting here. But yeah, you heard that line. The only difference between Comstock and Fitzroy is how you spell their name. That is some horse shit. As I said in the last video, this game is equivocating like anarchism and fascism, and they are not at all the same thing. I don't even think Daisy's following counts as a cult of personality. I mean, I hear that same charge thrown against, you know, not to relate too much to real-world politics, you know, like to ongoing American politics right now, but I hear the same charge lobbed by liberals against Bernie Sanders and his following, that they are a cult of personality like Trump because a large number of Bernie Sanders supporters don't support really anybody else. They're like, no, Bernie's my guy, or it's pretty much nothing. And, you know, they see that as, oh, well, they're just obsessed with Bernie, that they can't fathom voting for anyone else. And it's like, no, it's because this person, like, this person's uniquely positioned to actually do the politics that I want that will improve my life. You know, he actually stands with the working class in meaningful, demonstrable ways that every other candidate doesn't. But again, I don't want to get too deep in any of that shit. Although this is important. I'll shut up for 1 sec.
Looks like I got a friend in town after all. Slate. He's fell in with these Vox Populi. And for irregulars, I will say, they're loaded for bear. Problem is, I gotta help them with their damn revolution first. Then we take Comstock House by storm. I do that, I get the girl.
This is not what I meant to have happen.
Elizabeth,
They're dead, Booker.
come on. Let's leave this place. Let's go to the factory and get our airship.
So I'm not entirely sure what happens to Chenlin. If anyone in the comments wants to tell me, like both in the reality earlier where Chenlin is dead and in this one where he and the wife are dead, I don't know who exactly is meant to have killed them. But if anything, this just reflects poorly on Booker more so than Daisy, in my opinion, because it shows that for him this was all a means to an end. Like his association with the Vox, as it is here, he only associated with the Vox so that he could get his airship back and leave, and so that he could get Elizabeth out of there, which was the only reason he did it, so that he could, you know, pay off his gambling debts. And then in this reality where he is a martyr, he was only a member of the Vox so that he could do their revolution, so that he could get into Comstock House and get Elizabeth and pay off his debt. and I'm just running through gunfire like nobody's fucking business. I don't even give a shit. But anyway, yeah, this whole revolution sequence is really interesting and strange to me, because the game seems to think that the world where the Vox get to do their revolution is just as bad as the Columbia, the fascist, white supremacist, imperialist Columbia that we see at the beginning, because there is violence, because there is disorder and chaos. I mean, we're seeing the beginning of the revolution. The whole thing is that Booker was martyred, and that started the revolution, and this is just the uprising at Fink Industries, at, you know, the seizing of the means of production, if you will. And because there's violence and animosity toward the founders and toward white people, and now we're going to get the whole, you know, I don't want to get into the discussion of, you know, which racism counts as racism, but I think it's more interesting the fact that the game never entertains the notion of the Vox establishing a new government that's more equitable, because even by the game's own, well, I thought, by the game's own description of the Vox and how they came into being, their reason for existing, their goals is, I mean, like, Daisy was one of many people of color in this game who was brought to Columbia from the mainland specifically for brutalization and indentured servitude, and as I said, she led an army and an uprising of poor people and of you know, people who had been tortured and abused and you know, used for unpaid labor. And I mean, at the beginning, like, you know, is it really the same thing for Comstock's Columbia and Jeremiah Fink himself, who is the guy at the beginning, to hold a raffle festival where you get to, you know, have a public stoning of an interracial couple? Is that the same kind of animosity as what's happening where you are a historically oppressed class that has been denied rights all your life, and you are trying to uproot the structures of power that are keeping it that way? That is a completely different thing. Later on, just gonna spoil it, she tries to kill Jeremiah Fink's kid, and, I mean, we can have a long and productive discussion over the merits of the use of violence in revolutionary leftist movements and, you know, socialist movements, but that's not a morally bad idea. That's, you know, Daisy did nothing wrong, basically, is my, soapbox, because, I mean, yeah, that kid probably is being indoctrinated. If he's the kid of, you know, the richest man in this whole place, he probably is being indoctrinated with the exact same white supremacy that his father is leading every year at these festivals and is enforcing by, you know, using black bodies for unpaid labor in his factories. Like, this whole thing was built upon an apartheid approach to government. Oh yeah, here's me dying because I forgot how to get off the airship because I'm awesome. But it doesn't matter, it just sends you back. And I already got the airship down, so it's fine. But, yeah, so but like I was saying, even by the game's own description of what the Vox is and what they're going for, their goal is, you know, a restoration of rights for people, and, like, compare that with the stated goals of Comstock and Jeremiah Fink. It's just about extracting value out of other people, holding power and dominance over other people, aggrandizing and enriching yourself. Yeah, it's not the same thing at all, and it makes it very clear, as I've mentioned before, that these ideas, and I you know, this makes me interested in going back and revisiting the first Bioshock and examining how it talks about its themes of objectivism and all of those, you know, criticism of the sort of libertarian idea of the free market and of the meritocracy, as it were. Because it's very clear that Ken Levine, all of these ideas that he's juggling about, these social movements and about, people's places in political struggle and in history and everything like that, they're just ideas that he likes to think about and likes to suggest things about, but not have any coherent narrative or coherent politics for. It's just classic both sides stuff. As I said in the last video, it advocates a nihilistic center worldview where it's like, both sides are bad because there's violence and, not liking someone at the center of it, with no, coherent understanding of where the balance of power is or what the goals of those movements are or who is in the moral right, who is in the position to be leveraging violence for their deeds or for their goals. And again, like I said, you could have a very long and productive discussion about all of that. But yeah, I don't understand. She says here Comstock and Fitzroy are just right for each other, without really going into any detail about exactly how. And I think it's ironic that this is during this sequence here, where after seeing all of this revolution, we are being brought back up through these means of production. We're seeing the creation of all these things we've seen all throughout the, the white Columbia. I think it suggests rightly that, all of this, none of what Columbia is would be possible without the dehumanization and subjugation of other people, much like real-life America. But the way that this story treats everything can't square that.
Fitzroy, listen, I got you your guns. I'm here for my airship.
But my Booker DeWitt died for the Vox Populi. You either an imposter or a ghost. My Booker DeWitt was a hero to the cause, a story to tell your children. You just complicate the narrative.
Yeah, so I guess this is supposed to make Daisy seem nefarious because she says narrative. She's like, oh, well, the narrative is that you were a martyr and then the revolution started, but now there's another Booker and that don't make no sense. But again, that's correct. That's what happened in her world, in her life, in this version of reality that we are in this game. I really can't make heads or tails of exactly how this game, squares all of the things it says about politics and social movements in this section of the game. And yeah, here's a new vigor. I don't really ever make use of this one. It just, you splash your enemies with water. That's it. I mean, cool, but whatever. But yeah, it just, like I said, that line of thinking where, you don't actually think about where the balance of power is, or, the stated goals of these social movements. It's a reading of these types of politics and its approach to far left versus far right politics that just encourages keeping the status quo, oh yeah, just worry about yourself, make your own choices, let life, go by, and, who knows all of the implications of all of your actions, so just try to do the right thing. But, I don't know, that's not a satisfying... Like I'm saying, even saying all of that, that doesn't even feel like a conclusion. It's not a satisfying end to the narrative at all. It leaves us kind of, this game's whole meditation on the Vox leaves us pretty lost in terms of what it's trying to say about, again, this game is making very clear relations between Columbia, its depiction of Columbia, and, America. And in real life, and so, like, but it does not offer anything in the way of a coherent understanding of why those power structures are there, or it begins to show an understanding of it. Like I said, it really does communicate that, you know, the subjugation and dehumanization of both white, but especially non-white people, is the backbone of all of capitalism and all of American imperialism. But it doesn't do anything with it. But it also says, like, oh yeah, but, you know, those people, you know, doing everything they can to seize power back for themselves and end that subjugation, that's bad too. That's the same thing. And that's just, like, loony shit. Like I said, demented. I feel like most people don't think of it that way. Most people don't frame it in that simple of a way, but, you know, some questions have simple answers. Anyway, here is the sort of conclusion to all of this. I'm gonna let the video go out without any further comment. And you can see how they resolve all of this.
Boost me up. Go to the window and distract Daisy. Go!
Is this it? Is this your movement, Daisy?
This is what needs to be done. You see, the founders ain't nothing but weeds. Cut them down and they just grow back. If you want to get rid of the weed, you gotta pull it up from the root. It's the only way to
Elizabeth.
I guess it runs in the family.
Elizabeth. Whoa, hey, easy. Why don't you just come out of there?
I like how Booker is incapable of lightly knocking on a door. He always just does that balled up fist, like, banging there. Like, come on, dude. I know you got a beefy, banged up hand, but, you know, she's a little rattled. Just get, like, that. That'll do.
Elizabeth.
This is all they had.
Listen,
How do you do it?
how do I do what?
Forget. How do you wash away the things that you've done?
You don't. Just learn to live with it.
So the moment of truth between us. New York or Paris? No!
Shit. Come on, we gotta find a way to make this thing go faster.
There's gotta be some sort of throttle or accelerator.
Do you know what that looks like?
I don't know.
Help me find it!